Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to do something a little different, and I think you're going to love it. We are taking a piece of very formal Indonesian text, and we're going to break it down piece by piece to really boost our language skills. Okay, you ready? Let's dive in.
And of course, a huge welcome to everyone joining us here on the Modikar channel. It is awesome to have you with us for this deep dive into Indonesian.
So, are you ready to level up your Indonesian? You know, I think one of the best ways to go from just conversational to truly advanced is by tackling real formal texts. Yeah, it can seem a little intimidating at first, I get it, but trust me, by the end of this, you're going to have a whole new set of vocabulary and a way better feel for those more complex sentences. So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll introduce the text we're working with. Then we'll get right into the specific rules it talks about for children, and then the rules for parents. After that, we'll zoom out and look at the bigger guiding principles, and we'll wrap it all up with a quick vocabulary review to make sure it all sticks. All right, so the text we're using for our language lesson today comes from Surah An-Nisa, AYAT-11, which talks about Islamic inheritance laws. Now, just a heads up, our goal here isn't a theological study. We're simply using this formal, very structured text as a powerful tool to learn some great Indonesian vocabulary and grammar. The context is really just the key to unlocking the meaning of the words.
The main idea we're looking at is pembagian pusaka. Let's break that down, because it's pretty simple once you see it. Pembagian comes from the root word bagi, which means to divide or to share. So pembagian is the division, and pusaka, that means heritage or inherited property. So put it together, pembagian pusaka is the division of inheritance. That's the whole theme.
Okay, let's get into our first section, the rules about children. We're going to take the original Indonesian sentences, pull them apart, and see exactly what makes them tick.
Our first sentence here is, bagian seorang anak laki-laki sama dengan bagian dua orang anak perempuan. So what does that mean? Well, it translates to the share of one son is equal to the share of two daughters. Right away, it sets up this fundamental ratio.
Now, let's look at the building blocks of that sense. Bagian means a share or a portion. Anak laki-laki is literally male child, which of course means son. Sama dengan means equal to, and anak perempuan is female child or daughter. See how it all just clicks together? Pretty cool. Okay, so what about different scenarios? The next rule covers what happens if the children are all daughters. It says, jika anak itu semuanya perempuan, lebih dari dua, maka bagi mereka dua pertiga dari harta yang tinggalkan. This means if the children are all daughters and there are more than two, then they get 2/3 of the inheritance left behind. And this sentence introduces our very first key fraction.
And that fraction is dua per tiga. Dua is 2, and per tiga means per third. So, dua per tiga, 2/3. It's a pretty common way that fractions are formed in Indonesian, so it's a great one to know.
All right, but what if there's only one daughter? The text has a rule for that too. Jika anak perempuan itu seorang saja, maka ia memperoleh separuh harta. This translates to, if there is only one daughter, then she gets half of the assets. And that brings us to another super important vocabulary word, separuh. It means one half. Now, you might also hear the word setengah, which also means half. But separuh is really common in more formal texts like this one. So now we've got dua per tiga for 2/3 and separuh for 1/2. Awesome!
Great job. We've gone through the rules for children, so let's switch gears and look at the rules for parents. These involve some slightly different situations and, you guessed it, some new vocabulary.
So for the parents, the text says, bagian masing-masing superenam dari harta, jika yang meninggal itu mempunyai anak. What's that saying? Basically, for each of them, meaning the parents, a 1/6 share of the assets, if the person who passed away has a child. So if there are kids in the picture, each parent gets that specific fraction.
And that fraction is sepa-enam. Just like sepa-tiga would be 1/3, sepa-enam is 1/6. That se prefix is a huge clue for the number 1 in these fractions. It is a fantastic pattern to recognize. It'll make reading stuff like this so much easier.
But what if there are no children? Well, the rules change a bit. The text says, jika orang yang meninggal tidak mempunyai anak, maka ibunya mendapat sepertiga. This means, if the deceased person does not have a child, then his mother gets 1/3. And this brings us to our final fraction for today, sepertiga. Again, you see the pattern? Se for 1 and bertiga for third. So sepertiga is 1/3. And just like that, we've covered a half, a third, 2/3, and a 1/6. Not bad at all.
Okay, so we've looked at all these specific rules. Now let's zoom out and look at the makna, which means the broader meaning or the principles that the source text says are behind all these rules. This is where we get into some more abstract, kind of higher level vocabulary. The source points to 5 key ideas. First, establishing a legal basis. Second, this idea of relative justice, whereas son's larger share is linked to greater financial responsibility. Third, it highlights the protection of women's rights to inherit. Fourth, and this one is super important, any debts and wills have to be settled before anything is divided. And finally, these rules are seen as a divine decree. And this is a perfect example of how we can learn some really big, important concepts. Keadilan means justice. Perlindungan is protection. Ketetapan is a decree or a formal ruling. And hukum is law. I mean, these are fantastic words to add to your advanced Indonesian vocab.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So, before we wrap up, let's do a quick fire review of the most important words from today to really help them lock into your brain.
Ready? Let's go. Warisan, inheritance. Bagian, share or portion. Anak laki-laki for son. Anak perempuan for daughter. Orang tua, parents. Utang is debt, and wasiat is a will. Keadilan, justice. And our fraction, seperenam, 1/6. Just think about how many of those are new to you. If you practice them, I promise you'll see your ability to understand formal Indonesian just skyrocket.
And that is a wrap on our breakdown of formal Indonesian text. By taking on complex stuff like this, you are seriously pushing your language skills to the next level. You did some fantastic work today. So, my question for you is, what piece of formal text will you try to break down next? Thanks so much for watching.
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.